Chosen one. Pause for a moment and listen carefully, because what you are about to hear may explain years of confusion that never made sense until now. For a long time, you have carried a quiet question in your spirit, a question that surfaced during lonely nights and silent mornings. Why did life seem to slow down for you while everyone else kept moving forward? Why did it feel as if doors opened easily for others, while you remained standing in the hallway of waiting, watching opportunity after opportunity pass by? Many chosen ones have lived through this exact season, a strange period where time felt suspended and progress seemed delayed, almost as if your life had been placed on hold while the rest of the world accelerated. But here is the truth most people never realize until much later. That waiting was never random, and it was never wasted. Before we go any further, if this message already feels strangely familiar to you, take a moment right now and leave a comment below with the words, "I am still here." This simple act may seem small, but it signals that your spirit recognizes something deeper in this message. Also take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because messages like this often reach the people who need them at the exact moment they are ready to hear them. Many chosen ones discover these words not by coincidence, but by timing that feels almost orchestrated. Now listen closely, because the season you thought was silence may have been preparation all along. For years, you may have felt as if something about your life moved differently than others. While friends advanced quickly, built careers, formed relationships, and seemed to follow a clear path, you often felt like you were walking through a fog where direction remained hidden. Some days you questioned your own progress, wondering if you had somehow fallen behind. Other days you tried to convince yourself that patience was enough, even though part of you quietly wondered if you had misunderstood your purpose entirely. The truth is that this kind of waiting tests the spirit in ways few people understand. Scripture has long described this mysterious season of waiting. In Isaiah 40:31, it says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles." Notice something important in this verse. Waiting is not described as weakness. Waiting is described as a process that renews strength. That means the period that looked like delay on the outside may have been a period of strengthening on the inside. While nothing seemed to change around you, something significant was quietly forming within you. Many chosen ones spend years feeling like observers of their own lives, watching events unfold while they remain positioned on the sidelines. It creates a unique kind of frustration, because you can sense that your life carries meaning, yet the timing never seems to align with your expectations. Some people interpret this as failure, others call it bad luck. But those who eventually understand the spiritual dimension recognize something different. The hidden season is often where the most critical transformation occurs. When God prepares someone for a larger calling, that preparation rarely happens under bright lights or public attention. It happens quietly, in private moments where character, discernment, and resilience are being shaped. Think back for a moment to the years that felt most confusing. Perhaps there were relationships that suddenly disappeared, opportunities that collapsed at the last minute, or plans that seemed promising until they unexpectedly unraveled. At the time, those events may have felt like losses, even betrayals. But many chosen ones eventually realized that those moments were not simply setbacks. They were filters. They were the removal of paths that would have led you away from your true direction. Proverbs 16:9 explains this in a simple but powerful way. "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." That means even when your plans collapsed, your steps were still being guided towards something greater. This realization changes the entire perspective of the waiting season. What once looked like stagnation begins to reveal itself as alignment. The delay was not meant to punish you, nor was it evidence that your life had fallen off course. Instead, it was a form of preparation that most people never notice until the moment the shift begins. And here is the part that many chosen ones are sensing right now. Something about the season is changing. The same stillness that once felt heavy now feels different, almost like the calm before movement. The confusion that once clouded your direction is slowly being replaced by clarity, small signs appearing in unexpected places. If you have recently felt that quiet sense of change, that subtle feeling that something is about to unfold, you are not imagining it. Many people dismiss these sensations as coincidence, but throughout Scripture there are countless moments where individuals sensed the shift before the world around them recognized it. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." The waiting season had its purpose, just as the unfolding season now has its own purpose. This is why the message today is important. The years you spent wondering whether you were behind may have actually been the years when your foundation was being built. Strength was developing through experiences that felt difficult at the time. Discernment was forming through situations that forced you to observe people more carefully. Your character was being shaped through moments where perseverance was the only option left. None of those lessons were accidental. They were part of a process that often happens before the next chapter becomes visible. And this brings us to the core message that many chosen ones are beginning to understand. The waiting season was never meant to last forever. Just as winter eventually gives way to spring, seasons in life also shift when the preparation is complete. The same patience that once felt exhausting becomes meaningful when you begin to see why it was necessary. Doors that remained closed for years can suddenly open in ways that feel almost surprising. Paths that once looked impossible begin to appear with unexpected clarity. But before we move deeper into this message, take another moment to reflect on your own experience. Have you ever looked back at a period of delay and realized later that it protected you from something you could not see at the time? If that has happened to you, write the word "protected" in the comments below. It may seem like a small gesture, but it reminds others watching this video that they are not alone in their experiences. Many chosen ones are walking through similar seasons right now, wondering if the silence means something has gone wrong, when in reality, the silence may have been the quiet work of preparation. Because the truth is this: the waiting period that once felt endless may have been the very stage where your purpose was being formed. While others rushed ahead, you were being shaped. While others focused on speed, you were developing depth. And while the world measured progress through visible achievements, something far more important was being prepared within you. The season that once looked empty was actually full of unseen work. And now, chosen one, the question is no longer why the waiting happened. The question is, what begins to unfold next as that season slowly comes to an end? Because when the preparation is complete, the purpose that was hidden for so long rarely stays hidden forever. Now here's the part that many people misunderstand when they look at the life of a chosen one from the outside. They see the years of waiting and assume something must have gone wrong, as if progress simply stalled or opportunities somehow bypassed you. But the deeper truth is far more uncomfortable for those who only measure success through visible results. God often prepares the people He intends to use in places where almost no one can see the process happening. The stage comes later. The spotlight comes later. But the shaping of the Spirit almost always happens in private. Chosen one, if your life has ever felt like it unfolded behind closed doors while others built their lives in public view, you are not imagining the difference. Many of the individuals God called throughout Scripture experienced the same hidden preparation before their purpose became visible. Think about Moses for a moment. Before he ever stood before Pharaoh or led a nation, he spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep, living a quiet life that looked ordinary to anyone observing from the outside. Yet that long and lonely season was not wasted time. It was where patience, endurance, and humility were being shaped inside him long before the moment arrived when he would need those qualities to lead. This pattern appears again and again throughout the Bible. David was anointed as king long before he ever sat on a throne. For years he remained in obscurity, tending sheep, and later fleeing danger, even though the promise over his life had already been spoken. Those years must have looked confusing to anyone who knew the prophecy about him. But God was not delaying the promise out of neglect. He was preparing the man who would carry the promise. Psalm 105:19 says something remarkable about this kind of waiting. Until the time that his word came to pass, the word of the Lord tested him. That means the promise itself becomes part of the testing. The waiting season reveals whether someone will remain faithful when the outcome has not yet appeared. Chosen one, this is why your waiting season had to happen. It was not simply about slowing you down. It was about refining the qualities that cannot be developed quickly. Patience, humility, emotional maturity, and discernment do not grow in environments where everything arrives easily. They grow in environments where you are forced to trust God, even when visible results are absent. The delay becomes the classroom where the deeper lessons are learned. If this part of the message resonates with you, pause for a moment and type the word preparation in the comments below. That single word may describe years of your life that once felt confusing, but are beginning to make sense now. When many chosen ones look back, they realize the moments that felt like stagnation were actually moments when their character was being strengthened in ways that would later prove essential. The waiting season also serves another purpose that most people do not recognize until much later. It removes distractions. When life moves quickly and everything seems to fall into place, people rarely examine the influences surrounding them. But when progress slows and silence enters the picture, something interesting happens. Relationships that were built on convenience begin to fade. Attachments that once seemed important start losing their hold. Situations that once demanded your attention quietly fall away. What feels like loss at first often turns out to be separation from things that would have distracted you from your true direction. Hebrews 12:11 describes this refining process with unusual honesty. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Notice the phrase, trained by it. Training implies intention. It means the experiences shaping you were not random events scattered across your life. They were shaping tools, sometimes uncomfortable ones, used to build something stronger within you. During the waiting period, many chosen ones also experience a gradual shift in where they place their sense of worth. Earlier in life, it is easy to rely on validation from other people. Approval, recognition, and acceptance can feel like confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. But when you enter a hidden season, that external validation often disappears. Suddenly, you are moving forward without applause, without recognition, sometimes even without encouragement from those around you. At first, this absence feels unsettling, even discouraging. Yet over time, something remarkable begins to happen. Your confidence slowly stops depending on the opinions of others and starts rooting itself in faith instead. Galatians 1:10 speaks directly to this transformation. Am I now seeking the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. The waiting season forces this question into the center of your life. Who are you really living for? Whose approval truly matters? When the applause fades and the crowds disappear, the answer becomes clear. Faith replaces performance. Purpose replaces comparison. Chosen one, the experiences that felt like delay were quietly reshaping your internal compass. You were learning how to move forward even when no one else understood your direction. You were learning how to stand steady even when encouragement was scarce. And perhaps most importantly, you were learning how to recognize the difference between a path that looks impressive and a path that is actually aligned with God's purpose. Many people avoid this kind of development because it requires facing uncomfortable truths. It requires letting go of attachments that once felt secure. It requires trusting God in moments where the outcome cannot yet be seen. But for those who are truly being prepared for something meaningful, this stage cannot be skipped. It is the foundation that makes the next chapter possible. And here is the part that may surprise you the most. What looked like a random collection of delays, disappointments, and quiet seasons may have actually been a structured process all along. Every experience, every closed door, every unexpected detour was quietly shaping the person you are becoming. Romans 8:28 reminds us of this deeper orchestration. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Notice the phrase, all things. Not just the victories, not just the moments that felt meaningful. Even the confusing seasons become part of the preparation when a calling is involved. So if you ever wondered why your journey seemed slower, heavier, or more isolated than others, consider this possibility. You were not being delayed, you were being developed. The patience you learned during those silent years will help you navigate moments of pressure later. The humility formed during the hidden season will protect you when recognition eventually appears. The emotional strength you gained from difficult experiences will allow you to remain steady when challenges arise again. And this leads to an important realization. When God prepares someone privately for a long time, it often means the visible part of their journey will require the strength built during those unseen years. The waiting season was not the absence of movement, it was the construction of a foundation strong enough to support what is coming next. Chosen one, this is the part of the journey that almost no one around you could truly see. From the outside, many people believed your life had entered a period of stillness. They saw fewer visible milestones, fewer dramatic changes, and fewer signs of the kind of success the world usually celebrates. Some may have even assumed that your path had slowed down, or that you had somehow lost momentum. But what they could not perceive was the quiet transformation unfolding beneath the surface. While the outside world saw silence, God was developing something within you that could not be rushed, measured, or displayed in public. Hidden growth is often the most powerful kind of growth, because it reshapes the inner structure of a person before the outer results appear. Many chosen ones spend years in this invisible stage, and it can feel confusing because nothing around you seems to confirm that progress is happening. Yet inside, subtle changes begin taking place. Your awareness deepens. Your understanding of people grows sharper. Your patience becomes stronger than it once was. Situations that once overwhelmed you begin to reveal lessons rather than chaos. What the world calls stagnation is often the very place where spiritual awareness quietly develops. Over time, many chosen ones begin noticing something unusual happening within their perception. You start recognizing emotional signals and hidden motives that once passed unnoticed. Conversations reveal more than words alone. A person's tone, timing, and energy begin telling you things that others seem unable to detect. Situations that once appeared harmless suddenly reveal layers of intention beneath them. This shift can feel unsettling at first because it changes the way you interact with the world. You are no longer moving through life blindly. Instead, you are observing more carefully, listening more deeply, and noticing patterns that others miss entirely. Scripture describes this development of spiritual perception with striking clarity. In Proverbs 2:6 it says, "For the Lord gives wisdom, from His mouth come knowledge and understanding." Wisdom is rarely handed to someone instantly. It is cultivated through experience, reflection, and moments where God quietly reveals truth about people, choices, and consequences. Many chosen ones develop this wisdom precisely because their lives forced them to observe rather than rush ahead. The waiting season slowed your movement enough for you to see things that speed would have hidden. If you recognize this shift in your own life, take a moment and write the word "aware" in the comments below. Sometimes acknowledging the change helps you realize that the transformation within you is real. Many people watching this message are experiencing the same quiet awakening, discovering that the way they see the world is becoming more precise, more thoughtful, and more discerning than it once was. Another powerful transformation that happens during the hidden season is resilience. Early in life, difficult situations often feel overwhelming. When plans collapse or relationships fall apart, the emotional impact can feel devastating. But as the chosen one continues through seasons of testing, something remarkable begins to form. Your ability to endure increases. Challenges that once felt unbearable become manageable. Situations that once triggered emotional storms begin to produce calm observation instead. It is not that life becomes easier, but rather that your spirit becomes stronger. The book of James speaks directly to this process of spiritual strengthening. James 1:3-4 says, "Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete." Notice that perseverance is not simply about surviving difficulty. It is about allowing those experiences to mature you. Each challenge becomes a layer of strength added to your character. Over time, the person you become is far more stable than the person you once were. This resilience also brings another change that many chosen ones notice later in their journey: emotional discipline. In earlier seasons, it is easy to react quickly to situations, especially when emotions run high. But the hidden years teach a different approach. You begin learning how to pause before responding. Instead of reacting immediately, you observe. Instead of allowing emotions to control the moment, you step back and assess the situation more carefully. This kind of self-control becomes one of the most valuable strengths a person can possess. Proverbs 25:28 offers a vivid image of this principle. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. In ancient times, the walls of a city protected its people from chaos and invasion. In the same way, emotional discipline protects your life from unnecessary conflict and destruction. The waiting season often builds these walls within your character. Each experience where you chose patience instead of reaction strengthened your ability to remain steady under pressure. Chosen one, these internal changes were not random. They were part of the hidden development, preparing you for responsibilities that earlier versions of yourself might not have been ready to handle. Imagine if certain opportunities had arrived during a time when your discernment was still forming, or when your emotional reactions were still uncontrolled. The very things you once prayed for might have overwhelmed you if they had appeared too early. Sometimes the delay that feels frustrating is actually protection, ensuring that when the opportunity finally arrives, you possess the stability needed to carry it wisely. Many people misunderstand this stage because they focus entirely on what they can see. They measure progress by visible accomplishments, public recognition, or financial gain. But God's preparation often focuses on qualities that cannot be photographed or celebrated publicly. Myself, patience, discernment, emotional balance, yet they are the very qualities that determine whether someone can handle responsibility without losing themselves in the process. During the hidden season, you were learning how to read situations more accurately. You were learning how to remain calm when others panicked. You were learning how to trust God's timing even when the outcome remained uncertain. Each of these lessons quietly strengthened your ability to navigate the next chapter of your life. The development may have been invisible to others, but it was forming a foundation strong enough to support greater responsibility. Romans 5:3-4 describes this progression of growth with remarkable clarity. We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. This sequence reveals something profound. Suffering leads to perseverance. Perseverance shapes character, and character eventually produces hope. That means the difficult experiences you endured were not meaningless struggles. They were the steps through which your character was being built, piece by piece. Looking back now, you may begin recognizing how much has changed within you. Situations that once confused you now appear clearer. Relationships that once drained your energy are easier to recognize and step away from. Decisions that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable because your understanding has matured. Even the way you respond to pressure has shifted. Where panic once lived, patience now stands. This hidden development prepared you for responsibilities that earlier seasons might not have allowed you to handle successfully. God does not simply open doors and hope someone figures it out along the way. When a calling carries weight, preparation often comes first. The quiet years of observation, reflection, and spiritual strengthening were shaping the person who will eventually walk through those doors when the time is right. And that is why the world's misunderstanding of your waiting season does not change its value. While others saw stillness, you were growing. While others assumed nothing was happening, something essential was being built inside you. Discernment sharpened your perception. Resilience strengthened your endurance. Emotional discipline stabilized your reactions. And wisdom quietly expanded your understanding of how people and situations truly operate. The hidden season was not empty, it was construction. And every layer of growth that developed during those unseen years now forms the structure supporting what will unfold in the chapters ahead. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every long season of waiting when something subtle begins to change. At first, the shift is almost impossible to describe. Nothing dramatic may happen on the surface, yet deep inside you sense that the atmosphere of your life is different. The heaviness that once surrounded your days begins to lift slightly. The confusion that lingered in your thoughts starts giving way to a quiet awareness that something is moving beneath the surface. It is not always loud or obvious, but the Spirit recognizes when a season is beginning to turn. Many chosen ones reach this point without realizing that what they are feeling is actually the signal of transition. For years, life may have felt like a prolonged test, where doors stayed closed and clarity seemed distant. But seasons in life do not remain frozen forever. When preparation has accomplished its purpose, small indicators begin appearing that a new chapter is approaching. These signs rarely arrive all at once. Instead, they unfold gradually, like the first light before sunrise, revealing that the long night is slowly coming to an end. Before we continue, take a moment and ask yourself something honestly. Have you recently sensed a shift that you cannot fully explain? A feeling that something in your life is quietly repositioning? If that feeling resonates with you, write the word shift in the comments below. Many people watching this message are noticing the same change right now, and recognizing it together often confirms that the movement is real. One of the earliest signs that a season is changing is the weakening of environments that once had strong influence over your life. Places that once felt familiar may suddenly feel uncomfortable or misaligned. Conversations that once held your attention begin to feel shallow or repetitive. Habits that once filled your time start losing their appeal. This can feel unsettling at first because human nature prefers stability, even when that stability is no longer healthy. Yet this quiet separation is often one of the first signals that a new direction is approaching. Scripture speaks about this process of transition with striking clarity. In Isaiah 43:19, God says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" Notice the question within that verse. Do you not perceive it? The change often begins before it becomes obvious. The Spirit senses it first, long before the physical circumstances fully reveal it. The chosen one begins to feel that the old environment no longer fits the person they are becoming. As this shift continues, another sign begins to appear. While certain influences fade, new possibilities start emerging in unexpected ways. Ideas begin forming in your mind that did not exist before. Opportunities appear through conversations that once seemed ordinary. You may encounter individuals whose perspectives align with the direction you feel God guiding you toward. These connections may seem small at first, yet they carry a sense of significance that is difficult to ignore. Many chosen ones initially overlook these moments because they expect transformation to arrive dramatically. But God often introduces the next chapter quietly, allowing the path to reveal itself step by step. Proverbs 16:3 offers insight into this process. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. When your intentions align with God's purpose, direction begins forming in ways that gradually clarify your path. Another noticeable change during this transition is the emergence of clarity. For years, your thoughts may have been clouded by uncertainty, leaving you unsure about which direction to take. But as the season shifts, that fog slowly begins to dissolve. Decisions that once felt overwhelming start becoming easier to navigate. Your intuition becomes stronger, guiding you toward choices that feel aligned with your deeper purpose. What once felt like wandering begins to feel like movement toward something meaningful. This clarity does not necessarily arrive with complete answers all at once. Instead, it appears as a steady sense of direction. You may not see every step ahead, but you begin to understand where the path is leading. Psalm 119:105 describes this beautifully. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Notice that the verse does not say the entire road is illuminated at once. It says the lamp lights your feet and your path. In other words, God often reveals the next step rather than the entire journey. Chosen one, this stage can feel both exciting and unsettling. Exciting because you finally sense movement after a long season of waiting. Unsettling because change always requires leaving something behind. Old patterns, relationships, and habits that once shaped your life may no longer align with the direction you are moving toward. Letting go of those influences can feel difficult, even when you understand it is necessary for growth. Yet this realignment is often where purpose becomes visible. When distractions fall away and clarity emerges, you begin recognizing connections that once seemed unrelated. Experiences from your past start making sense in ways they never did before. The struggles you endured reveal lessons that now serve your direction. Even the delays that once frustrated you begin to appear as preparation rather than obstacles. Chosen one. One of the most difficult parts of walking through a season of preparation is realizing that many people around you will never fully understand what is happening in your life. From the outside, your journey may have looked unusual, even confusing. While others followed predictable paths, steady careers, visible milestones, social approval, your life often moved in a direction that did not fit the patterns people expect. There were periods where you stepped back, moments where silence replaced activity, and seasons where isolation seemed to surround you for reasons that were difficult to explain. To the outside observer, it may have appeared as if your life had stalled, but what they were witnessing was not stagnation. It was transformation taking place outside the categories they understood. Many chosen ones experience this misunderstanding at some point along their path. Friends, relatives, or colleagues may quietly question why your progress seems slower than expected. Some might even assume that something went wrong, interpreting your quiet seasons as evidence that your plans failed or your direction collapsed. Their conclusions often come from a limited perspective, because most people evaluate life through visible achievements alone. When those achievements are temporarily absent, they assume nothing meaningful is happening. Yet the most significant developments often occur beneath the surface, where the world cannot easily observe them. Before continuing, pause for a moment and reflect on something honestly. Have you ever felt as though the people around you could not understand the season you were walking through, even when you tried to explain it? If that resonates with you, write the word "different" in the comments below. Many chosen ones eventually realize that the sense of being misunderstood is not a sign of failure, but often a sign that their path is unfolding according to a different rhythm than the one most people follow. Scripture repeatedly shows this pattern. When God begins preparing someone for a calling, the process rarely looks logical to the people watching from the outside. Joseph's life is a powerful example. At the beginning of his story, he carried a dream placed in his heart by God, yet the path that followed looked nothing like success. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned for something he did not do. Anyone observing those events would have assumed his life had collapsed completely. Yet, behind the scenes, God was positioning him for a role that would later save an entire nation. Genesis 50:20 captures this reversal with remarkable clarity when Joseph says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done." Chosen one. This pattern is why many people struggle to understand the waiting seasons in your life. When someone measures progress only through immediate results, they cannot recognize preparation that is happening internally. To them, silence looks like inactivity. Isolation looks like rejection. Delay looks like failure. But the chosen one's journey operates on a deeper timeline, where the internal work must often be completed before the external results appear. During your quiet seasons, people may have wondered why you withdrew from certain environments or distanced yourself from particular circles. They may have interpreted your solitude as weakness or insecurity. Yet many chosen ones discover that isolation becomes necessary when God is reshaping their direction. When too many voices surround you, it becomes difficult to hear the guidance that is meant specifically for your life. Silence creates space for clarity, even though it often looks strange to those who are not experiencing the same process. Psalm 46:10 contains a powerful instruction that reflects this hidden stage of preparation. "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is rarely celebrated in a culture that values constant movement. Yet the command to be still suggests that certain forms of understanding only emerge when activity slows down. During those moments when your life appeared quiet, God may have been guiding you through lessons that required stillness in order to be heard. Another reason people often misunderstand the chosen one's journey is that spiritual development does not follow predictable timelines. In ordinary circumstances, effort usually produces immediate results. Work leads to income. Education leads to qualifications. Practice leads to improvement. But spiritual growth unfolds differently. Sometimes years of internal development take place before a single visible breakthrough appears. This delay can confuse observers who expect progress to follow a straightforward pattern. Ecclesiastes 3:11 offers insight into this mysterious timing when it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." Notice the emphasis on timing. The beauty of a calling is often revealed only when the appropriate moment arrives. Before that moment, the process may look incomplete or even chaotic to those who do not understand the full picture. Chosen one. The misunderstanding you experienced during your waiting season may have been painful at times. There were likely moments when you questioned yourself, wondering whether the criticism or doubt surrounding you contained some truth. When enough voices repeat the same concerns, it becomes easy to internalize those doubts. But what many people failed to recognize was that your development was happening on a level they could not easily measure. While others focused on visible milestones, God was shaping qualities within you that cannot be rushed. Discernment was sharpening your awareness. Patience was strengthening your endurance. Emotional discipline was stabilizing your responses. Faith was teaching you how to trust direction that had not yet fully revealed itself. These changes were forming the foundation of your future, even though they were invisible to those evaluating your life from the outside. The Apostle Paul spoke about this hidden preparation in a way that reveals its deeper significance. In 2 Corinthians 4:18, he writes, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." This verse highlights the difference between visible circumstances and unseen development. The world often focuses entirely on what can be seen, while God frequently works through what cannot yet be observed. This difference in perspective explains why many people misinterpreted your journey. They were evaluating the visible timeline of your life without recognizing the invisible preparation shaping your character. To them, it looked like delay. To God, it looked like progress. And here is the deeper truth that many chosen ones eventually discover. Not everyone is meant to understand your preparation while it is happening. Some people will only recognize its significance after the results become visible. When the purpose that has been forming within you finally begins to unfold, the same individuals who once questioned your path may suddenly see it differently. What once looked like confusion will appear as preparation. What once looked like isolation will reveal itself as protection. But even if that recognition never comes, the value of your journey remains unchanged. The hidden seasons were never about convincing others that you were moving in the right direction. They were about allowing God to shape the person you were becoming. And when spiritual preparation reaches completion, the clarity that emerges often speaks louder than any explanation ever could.